Well, that was fun. Welcome to
That was pretty
Afterburner,
good,
everybody.
right?
I'm Ryan Pike from FlamesNation.ca. I'm joined by, and my notes say this, Kent Wilson, the godfather of nerdy Flames writing, columnist for Post Media, and all-around swell guy.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I mean, all three of them are meant to be complimentary, and Kent and I are here to hang out with y'all and break down a uncharacteristically exciting Saturday night game between the Calgary Flames and the Minnesota Wild. Friends, if you have a cable package, the Calgary Flames game was on the Sportsnet West channel. There was a game between I believe it was Toronto and Ottawa that was on most of the national channels. There was a Montreal game on another channel. So, was this a game that a national television audience was seeing and enjoying? Well, they weren't seeing it, but had they seen it, they might have enjoyed it because it was kind of a wild game. The first period included 2 goals and 10 total shots, and it was not high quality entertainment, but ironically enough, starting with the game got a little bit entertaining and a little bit spicy after a hit that was somehow not called a major. And then we got a bunch of goals. We got Marc-Andre Fleury scrapping with Rasmus Andersson. We had the first goal for Clark Bishop since 2018. There was a lot to break down. So Kent and I will get into it. Before we get into it, as always, Afterburner is supported by our dear friends at Bet365. Bet365, the world's largest sports betting platform. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Download the app today and use the code NATION when you sign up. Whatever the amount, or whatever the moment, it's never ordinary with Bet365. Once again, that code is NATION. I hope everyone took the over in this game because
Nobody did.
I don't think because it's the Minnesota Wild came into this game riding they lost 4 out of 5 and they were they got shut out at home by Utah on Thursday. At the same time that game is going on, the Calgary Flames played a surprisingly spicy game against Buffalo, a team that you would not, maybe the teams were fighting for the love of one Rhett Warrener as they should have been, but you don't typically see Calgary Flames Buffalo games as ones you circle on your calendar going, that's the one I got to go out of my way to see. Similarly, Flames and Wild, there's a stereotype in this business that covering hockey becomes a job when it's a snowy Wednesday or Thursday in the middle of the season.
It's a Saturday, but yeah.
It's usually like the stereotype is what? Flames Columbus, Flames Minnesota, Flames Nashville.
It's
the
mostly
games,
Minnesota.
It's like 2 weeks before the All-Star break. It's cold, it's snowy, you don't know what time it is because the sun never comes up. But this one was kind of fun. I think we were all primed to hopefully enjoy this game by the goaltending matchup. Marc-Andre Fleury playing perhaps his last game against the Calgary Flames, matched up against Dustin Wolf, who has made a hell of a case for himself as an NHL starter, and B, potentially an NHL starter, get some hardware at some point. I'll go through the scoring summary really quickly for those of you who did not have an opportunity to see the game, or maybe you're watching one of the other many hockey games on this evening. The Calgary Flames had a power play midway through the first period. They were they couldn't really break into the zone for a minute and a half, and then by the time they did, Nazem Kadri just threw the puck towards the crease, and it got deflected by Andrei Kuzmenko. So that was
really slight deflection too.
It was basically, it was going to miss the net, and then he just got enough of it that it just went in the far side of the net. So I mean, a goal is a goal. It's pretty good. And Kuzmenko has been in and out of the lineup. He was playing at 5-on-5 on the fourth line. He has not been a growing concern. He's working through some stuff. When you talk to him, he really wants to do well, and he knows what he needs to do. It's just not working for him, but it worked for him tonight, as we'll get into. So after that, Joel Eriksson scored off the rush. It's unclear. I saw a replay, and it wasn't quite clear.
I think
it might have hit Joel Hanley's stick, but basically it was one of those ones where
I thought it hit him like up higher, actually, but it seemed to be a deflection.
You hit the zone, and it kind of just beats Wolf glove side. Wolf is usually a really good glove side goaltender. And so it was either way, it was a good shot. Joel Eriksson is a guy you don't want to give clean looks to. So that tied at 1-1. Early second period, the Calgary Flames went down to 5 defensemen. And Yasmin, I don't know if we have a clip of this. Hopefully we do, because this was caused a lot of consternation amongst Flames fans. And really, I'd seen people, not even people who follow the Flames, going, ooh, that's not a good hit. So young Mr. Kevin Bahl was playing the puck in his own zone. It's one of those plays where you sort of get the puck below the red line and you're just sort of, you stop, you move the puck out of the way, and then you go along your business. It's a fairly routine play. And Jakob Lacko, I'll say it both ways, so I'll be wrong at least once.
Say Jacob,
yeah. Jacob Lacko goes in the forecheck and basically plants him in the numbers. And
hits him.
Go down and you hold your head. That's the first sign of, like, the spotters are going to say, you need to come out of the game. And just a routine spotter call is you lose about 10 minutes of game time. It takes about a half a period to accurately do the baseline testing and the recovery testing. We did not see Kevin Bahl the rest of the game. He did not return. It was announced on the broadcast the beginning of the third period that Kevin Bahl was leaving the game, wouldn't return. I would be very shocked if he plays on Sunday in Winnipeg, which means probably Jake Bean time. But anyway, after that hit, things started to get spicy because game management.
I mean, up until then, it was pretty rough. Like,
it was okay.
I was wondering if either team would get to 20 shots.
I think
through the game.
I made a sarcastic tweet.
7-9 or
yeah, I think it was 7-8 at one point. I made a sarcastic tweet. Yeah. Oh, I just realized I forgot to read, and I'm seeing this and I'm going, oh shit, I forgot to read. So
let's do it.
So let's see if I can find the read in my notes, because I'm terrible with notes. We have a super chat, friends. And so I'm going to put Yasmin on the spot. Can you email me really quickly the super chat read? Because I forgot it. So Mitchell, we will get your super chat momentarily. We did not forget about you. In fact, we're going to give you added value for your super chat because we're doing a meta discussion about the existence of super chats.
There you go.
And Mitchell's super chat is germane to the conversation. So we will continue discussing the penalty. I didn't like the penalty. So anyway, the way it works is you blast somebody in the boards. It's it's a boarding penalty. It's just a question of what. And so what they ended up doing was they reviewed it. Essentially, if you call something on the ice a minor, you can't do anything else with it. It stays a minor. If you call something on the ice a major, you have the ability to review it and downgrade it if you want to. So the rules are structured so that you're going to be calling it on the ice you're going to be calling a major on the ice just because. And so they did the review on the ice.
Yeah.
And
why did they review it?
Well, I think it's usually if it's obviously a bless. I'm trying. Let's see.
Such an obvious penalty.
Let's run the clip again, because the only thing I can think of is, so when Johnny Gaudreau played for the Calgary Flames and really played for anyone, the mindset was Johnny Gaudreau does not get calls that other guys would because Johnny Gaudreau is small, and any kind of physicality on Johnny Gaudreau looks like you're throwing him, like a rag doll around. Because
that's not true.
That's not true with Kevin Bahl. And maybe the idea is like purposely trying to be like, I've sat. I'll disclosure, folks. I've sat next to the head of officiating for games. I've sat next to AHL officials for games, and I try to give the refs the benefit of the doubt because this is the fastest sport in the world. It's big dudes crashing into each other at full speed. And part of the reason why they expanded the officials' ability to review stuff, especially major penalties, was let's slow the game down a bit and try to get it right. So I don't know. Like I don't know how you watch that whole thing over again and go, oh, yeah, that's a minor.
What? And
anyway,
to add insult to injury, like 3 minutes later, they called the most ridiculous hooking call I think I've seen all season on Hanley. And it was just like, that is...
Yeah, it was... The Flames have had challenges with officials this year. I know there's going to be some of you in the chat going, Weidman effect, Weidman effect. Our dear friend Sportsman's Elliot Friedman even mentioned the Weidman effect recently in a 32 Thoughts blog. Yeah. I'll say this. They've rolled over a lot of officials over the last 5 to 10 years. Some have retired, some have come up in the AHL, and they're learning. And learning on the job is tough. We don't ever want to see NHL. When you bring up anyone to the NHL player or whatever, it's a tough place to learn, and your mistakes are very obvious. But one of the refs in this game was Wes McCauley, who is not a newer.
He's been around forever.
Yeah, mistakes were made. Speaking of, I'm going to awkwardly transition to plug our dear friends from Youth Centers of Calgary. Our Super Chat charity partner this year is Youth Centers of Calgary. So if you want to make sure that your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Youth Centers of Calgary, YYC. It's a place where kids are welcomed and accepted as they are, a place where they get to have a break from the chronic stress that is the reality of many of their lives and flourish through connection and fun. Our dear friend Mitchell provided us with a $6.99 Super Chat. So Mitchell, thank you very much. All this Mitchell does bullshit, demoting the 5 minute to 2. Hope Ball isn't too badly concussed. Wolf for the win. I would say it is a safe bet that we will not see Kevin Bahl in Winnipeg. If you typically, again, not going to speak or speculate on any individual person's health, brain or otherwise, because brains are weird and squishy. And the thing that we understand the least about sports recovery is the human brain. And so the NHL has their concussion protocol. Generally speaking, we saw this early in the year with Kevin Rooney. Generally speaking, if a player has a suspected concussion or concussion-like symptoms or any kind of concussion-adjacent thing, the protocol takes about a week. It is 7 days. Day 0 is the first day you have no symptoms, and then they go step by step to make sure that your brain is fully healthy by the time they have people crash into you again. So assuming that Kevin Bahl is unavailable for Sunday's game, and we don't know that for sure, I think it's a safe assumption. And he's assuming he's in the protocol, which again, we don't know, but we suspect so. I would say probably about a week. So we'll be seeing quite a bit of Jake Bean. Tyson Barrie is the 8th defenseman. He's currently assigned to the Wranglers on a conditioning stint. He's playing on Saturday as we speak against the San Diego Gulls at home in Calgary. The Flames are at home Tuesday, Thursday. We'll get into that later. That's a long way of saying my guess is we see Jake Bean on Sunday, then the Flames fly home, and they probably just, if you need an extra defenseman, you probably just tell Barrie, conditioning stint's over, come back to the big club. But you kind of wish it wasn't under those circumstances. I think the ideal circumstance would have been Tyson Barrie playing 2 full weeks in the AHL to get his swagger back, and no one having a brain injury or any kind of injury that would force them out of the lineup. But
you don't wish injury on anyone, but honestly, I think Tyson Barrie, let's call up Soloviev. Let's see something new. Some of the young guys. We don't need to see more Tyson. But I don't hate Tyson Barrie. He's been fine.
The weird thing is the roster, Barrie counts against the roster as he's in the minors. So if you're going to call up anyone, somebody's going IR, you need to do something weird. So anyway, we'll get it.
I'm going to say I don't know why that player was signed at this point.
Kent, we'll argue about that later.
All right,
we have a segment called Kent's Hot Takes. The remainder after the big hit, let's go through the remainder of the 17,000 goals in this game as we expected from Minnesota Calgary. Martin Pospisil scored on a kind of a fun sequence. The Wild turned over the puck. Pospisil went on an odd man rush. Andrei Kuzmenko is fairly obviously going, don't pass to me, just shoot it. So Pospisil shoot it. Pospisil rebound went out, got stopped. Rebound went out to Kuzmenko. Kuzmenko had a scoring chance. He got stopped, and then Pospisil finally scored his first goal in I think something like 21 games, a while. That put the Flames up 2-1.
The Wild tried to turn it back around, and then they got stuffed at the sideboards, and Sharon Govich turned it back around. They scored.
What a weird sequence. Another weird one. So this game was punctuated, especially after that hit, by some physicality. We saw Ryan Lomberg fighting Lauco later in the game. Ryan Lomberg now the Flames leader with 7 fighting majors out of the 19 the Flames have this year. And all of Lomberg's fights have been, he's picking his spots. He's, Kent has been vocal in the past about functional toughness and has, I believe the term you used for guys who are only on the roster for fighting was dancing bears. The Flames and the NHL are moving away from dancing bears. We're not free of bears anymore, but we're getting there. And Lomberg is a player I'd say embodies functional toughness. He can play a regular shift and he's not afraid to sort of throw his body around. And he's gotten a lot of praise from teammates and the coaching staff for sort of knowing when to do that kind of thing. And it seems like the fight he had was pretty nice and did a nice job of sort of getting the emotionality for the Flames going in the right direction. A little bit later on, there was a scrum that featured, for some reason, Rasmus Andersson punching Marc-Andre Fleury in the face, and then a flurry of a pile up. It was weird. Anyway, the whole thing ended up with the Flames getting a power play in the last couple minutes of the second period. Matt Coronado drew a minor off some really nice forechecking on the power play. Kind of a pile up in front of Marc-Andre Fleury, and Anderson pulled the puck out and scored to give the Flames a 3-1 lead and some breathing room heading into the intermission. And then he found a lovely couple by the glass and just stared them down. The male of the couple was very perplexed, and the female just sort of giggling and taking photos. It was great. If you can find the video of the goal, it's worth just her reaction makes the whole sequence. It goes from good to amazing. After the period, we saw a little bit of history. Calgary Flames forward Clark Bishop, the Wranglers captain, believe it or not, he had not played in the NHL before Thursday since the 2022. He spent 3 years with the Wranglers. Before that, he was with Carolina and Ottawa. He got his first goal since 2018 this evening. It was a pretty important goal. Put the Flames up 4-1. He picked a spot over the shoulder of Marc-Andre Fleury, which is not something a lot of guys can get to say, let alone people who have scored one NHL goal to that point. That made it 4-1 Flames. Freddie Gaudreau scored on a power play, a rebound chance right around the net. Justin Wolf made a nice sprawling save on the first shot of the power play, but Freddie Gaudreau right there, had position, jammed it in, nothing the goalie could do, made it 4-2. Are the Wild getting close? No, because right away, as they're announcing the goal, 14 seconds later, Andrei Kuzmenko, again, as we all expected, Andrei Kuzmenko, a beautiful wraparound.
Yeah.
A right around the net, bar-to-bar wraparound, basically completely baffling Marc-Andre Fleury, giving the Flames a 5-2 lead. That goal stood as the eventual game winner because the Wild decided to stop playing like the Minnesota Wild and just sort of threw everything they could at the net. Marcus Foligno cut the lead to 5-3. A little bit later on, Matt Zuccarello deflected the puck. Really nice low shot, I believe by Marco Rossi. Really nice deflection right around the blue paint. Nothing Dustin Wolf could do. That cut the lead to 5-4. Then Flames basically went into fire drill mode. Nazem Kadri from his own slot narrowly missed an empty net, and Jacob Pelche, everyone's favorite kissing bandit, booked it down the ice, beat out the icing call to make sure that there was no more offensive zone faceoffs for the Flames and I guess for the Wild. And that killed the clock, and the Flames won 5-4. 9 goals between the two teams, as everyone expected. Final shots were 29-25 in favor of the Flames, and penalty minutes were 17-15 in favor of the Minnesota Wild. There was a lot of roughing minors. I'm going to dub I'm going to dub roughing minors and a goal as the Rasmus Andersson hat trick, because in the second period, Andersson just missing his regular defensive partner, he got 2 roughing minors and then scored a massive goal. So 5-4 is the final. The Flames improved to 24-16-7, 55 points. As we're recording this, the Flames are not playing, but the team chasing them, the Vancouver Canucks, are. As the Vancouver Canucks game is pending, the Flames as of right now, are even in games played and have a 5-point lead on the Vancouver Canucks. And Vancouver's playing the Alexander Ovechkin-led Washington Capitals. So who's to say what's going to happen in that game? But as we all expected, Kent, the Calgary Flames are 47 games into the season, 25 or 35 games left in the season. They're in a playoff spot, and in a playoff spot with a tiny bit of breathing room.
Yeah, they're legit in a playoff spot. It's crazy.
That's our review. There's been some other action in the hockey world tonight. Not National Hockey League action at the Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament up north in scenic Jasper. Kent and I obviously are not attending. They sent people with actual hockey skills up there, and also Ryan Pinder. But the Ryan
I played
Pinder,
for 10 years.
This is the last time I played. It was in a charity game, and I believe Craig Conroy chirped me about how new my skates looked the entire time.
That's fair enough. Yeah,
he's a very nice man usually, but not when you're playing against him. But before we tell you how Team Flames Nation did, we'll talk a bit about the wonderful supporters we had to put on the Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament. Booster Juice was a proud puck partner of the Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament, was just completed January 23rd to 25th at Lake Mildred. Flames Nation was powered by Booster Juice. Visit the location today to refuel, refresh, and re-energize, or download the new Booster Rewards app to earn, order, and enjoy. And again, if you've seen any of the social media coverage of the beautiful tournament, our friends at Oilers Nation, the only time to really check out Oilers Nation content is when they're shooting beautiful videos of the pond hockey tournament. Follow them, check out all the videos, then unfollow them and block them until the next time you want to troll them about something. Tell them Kent and I sent you. But if you watch this, the folks at Yeti set up everyone with just some beautiful stuff. They took care of us with mugs, coolers, chairs, tents, blankets. They were well taken care of. Everyone was nice and toasty and shielded from the elements because of our wonderful friends at Yeti. So thank you to the folks there. Crave the cold and extend your ice time with hard-hitting gear that's built to honor the toughest sport on earth. Hashtag crave the cold. Hashtag built for the wild. Now, after stalling the results, here's what happened. Flames Nation beat Oilers Nation as we did last year. Yay for us. Oilers Nation went on to the B final, as in the relegation final, the bracket for the people who aren't good at hockey, and they lost in the final. So if you were hoping that we'd be able to dunk on Oilers Nation for another year, you are correct, and we will do so because that's what we get paid to do. The Flames Nation team, featuring Ryan Pinder, Johnny Lazarus, Jeff Merrick, and other wonderful people, made it to the A final, the good final. But unfortunately, they fell in the A final. So we are going to probably have. I forget. Not Oilers Nation. That's the important part. But we're debating whether or not we're going to get a finalist banner put up. There's no trophy involved for finishing second, but all we know is that we finished well ahead of the plugs at Oilers Nation. Some of them are very nice people. All of them work for Oilers Nation. And so we dunk on them from time to time, especially when, we beat them. So that's how that was. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to A, go to Jasper, or B, participate in the Jasper Pond Hockey Tournament, I can't think of a nicer place in the world to play, to really do many or any things outdoors, especially seeing some of the photos out there. You got the mountains, you get the beautiful scenery, and the weather cooperated. I think it was like maybe -10 out there, not too much wind.
It's perfect.
So no one turned into ice cubes, and Oilers Nation lost. So it was, I think, the best possible outcome for all involved. So hopefully we see as many of you as possible out there next year, and we'll set up another crew next year. We're gonna have the tough internal conversations to decide, what we need to do to improve the roster to turn a second place finish to a first place finish, because I think Pinder has designs on turning this into a dynasty, and the way to turn it into a dynasty is to win every year. So we're close.
Get red out there.
Yeah, we got to work on it. But yeah, it was by all intents and purposes, it was a fun event. Kent, you and I haven't done a show in a while. We haven't done a show in the time that the Flames have been above the cut line.
Right.
So
yeah, they were much worse the last time we did this.
before we get into the other business we have to take care of, what the hell is going on here? Because I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. Okay, all this. So, Kent, I know you are a very well-read person. In my season preview, I took pains not to make a bold prediction, and the reason I did that was I wasn't quite sure how things were going to go. I thought I had a handle on the forward group, and the forward group probably had the fewest question marks in it. It was like
not too good. Yeah.
Not great, not terrible, sort of a perfectly adequate group of forwards. The defense, you have the two established NHL forwards. You go Weegar, good. Anderson, good. Other guys, I don't know. And then in goal, I've mentioned this frequently. Our friends at ESPN had the Flames goaltending tandem before the season ranked 30th. And the reason they provided was you have Vladar coming off major hip surgery and Dustin Wolf, who had played less than 20 games and hadn't looked great. He didn't look terrible, but you'd really, if you want to say you knew what the Flames goaltending would be, you were probably guessing. So here we are, 47 games into the season, and the Flames have 55 points and are clear of the playoff cut lane by 5 points. Just as we all expected.
I mean, the offense isn't really there, but I mean, they are one of the worst offensive teams in the league. Got 5 goals tonight, which was nice, but you've seen a few things happening. You've got Dustin Wolf coming out to be a Calder, Hart, Vezina candidate if he continues this sort of level of play. So that's the biggest variable, right? You don't know what you got going into this season without a Jacob Markstrom, right? An established starter. You have Wolf come in, who has a fantastic resume but hasn't done anything in the NHL, and he's kicking ass. So that's the biggest one. But you have Connor Zary, who unfortunately is injured, but coming up, playing well. You have Matt Coronado coming up, and I love watching Matt Coronado play right now. Even when he doesn't score like tonight, just a fantastic player. And then you have Jacob Pelche coming out, waivers, but in the last 20 games, I've loved his game as well. So you have all these young players coming out, and you can't, guess at all of these things happening. And this sort of push forward has been moved by all of these young players taking this massive step forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been discussing it in other forums like texts and whatnot. I would say the exciting thing, as someone who covers the team, as someone who watches every game, I thought this would be a boring team to cover this year potentially, because
it was going to be painful.
Disclosure: I've covered the Flames since 2010. Since 2012 for Flames Nation, I have covered the last year's the Iginla Flames, where poor Jay Feaster is sort of tilting at windmills to try to get the Flames over the line, because if you have an Iginla and you have a Kiprusoff, you think you have a chance, so you're trying to squeeze what you can out of them. Didn't quite work. No. You go into the tank, you have the 13-14 year when you're bad, and then that 14-15 year, you have Gaudreau, who turned out to be Gaudreau right away. You had Sean Monahan coming off that 13-14 learning season, becoming an actual like top 6 NHL center. Like he figured it out very quickly. Then you get Tkachuk a couple years later. You get so the thing I think that excited a lot of people about the past vintage of Flames was it was a lot of exciting young players coming in and taking hold of the team and creating an identity and really allowing them to turn things around quickly. And we can have debates in other forums about whether or not they handled the climb properly, because I think they probably, in retrospect,
rushed it.
Yeah, they misjudged. I love the Dougie Hamilton trade, but it felt too early for that move. I did not like the Hamonic trade in retrospect at all. But this year kind of feels like that 14-15 year where, okay, should they be on paper, should they be worse? On paper, sure. But on paper,
absolutely.
You don't really know what Coronado was. Zary had played 2/3 the season.
Good rookie season. Yeah.
He was good. I mean, he was, disclosure, he was on my Calder ballot. He was 5th. good. He was one of the better Flames consistently last season, but you wouldn't
That
say
doesn't guarantee anything, right? Though, like
you usually see a sophomore slump. There's a reason why.
Yeah.
You're excited for your first year in the NHL, and then your second year, the realities of it being your day-to-day life hit you. Rasmus Anderson, I think late last season had this beautiful. He did this really long sort of press availability with us after a game where he discussed how challenging it can be to be a young guy in the NHL, especially after your first year. You're learning, and I'll see if I can find it. And when we post up this show on YouTube, I'll throw in the link in the comments, because it's worth your time, because I really love when Rasmus Anderson sort of gets cerebral, because he's such a well-spoken person about that part of the game. But that's a long way of saying this could have been another year, like, that 13-14 year, where it's sort of like a team that's the kids aren't quite there, and the veterans kind of are trudging along because they kind of know what the team is, and the team doesn't think they have a chance, and so everyone involved is
mailing it in, and
I wouldn't say
playing the
mailing it in,
games,
because I think in the NHL no one mails it in, but to a certain extent,
you're not winning the cup.
Yeah, and I think, especially, like, imagine if you're an NHL player and you have a finite amount of time. Oh, everyone has a window of athletic peak. Kent and I are well past ours, but actual athletic people have a very small window, and these are some of the most competitive people in the world. And I can't imagine the head games it does to you, burning off a year of your core athletic peak on a team that has no chance in hell of making it. So I think the fun thing for a lot of the Flames fans is the veterans seem really engaged. Ryan Huska has spoken really eloquently about the core 6 veterans they have, the guys who all wear letters: Backlund, Anderson, Uyghur, Coleman, Huberdeau, Kadri. They've all been very good to very good. Even the guys, like, I don't think Coleman's offensively having the season you'd expect him to have coming off last year, but he's been useful at worst. But the young guys,
Coleman,
I mean,
that's how he plays.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the difference between the Flames being bottom 10 or Chicago, the difference between the Flames being Chicago and the Flames being the Flames this year is Wolf, Coronado, Pelche, Zari. Like, the young guys have been very, very good. And I think we'll give honorable mentions to, I think Braden Bahl, he's 25. He's really carved out a niche for himself. He's an everyday tough minutes guy, and there's nothing flashy about his game, but he's really reliable. And Kevin Bahl, I think not a lot of Flames fans knew much about going into the season. And I'd say he's a higher end version of Bahl. He's big. He's boring in the way that you want a defenseman to be boring, especially if they're playing with Rasmus Anderson. Him being boring allows Anderson to be Anderson. And as a result, instead of us sitting here in late January going, oh man,
another loss.
They played Minnesota on a
3
national game, a national game only covered by one of the national regional channel things. A Saturday night, the early game in Minnesota. We're talking about a pretty entertaining hockey team that won a pretty entertaining hockey game to give themselves a bit of breathing room on the playoff bubble, on the right side of playoff bubble. And
I did write about this recently for Post Media, and my big thing was, like, I think the topic of the column was, like, how the Flames have defied expectations so far. And Wolf was number 1. The kids were like number 2, but you also have, like, the Flames don't have a rebuilding blue line right now, like a tanking blue line, because they've got Uyghur still, they've got Anderson. Bahl has stepped in and been completely adequate. And you're right, like, players like Hanley and Bahl have come in as just spare parts, but they are everyday NHLers for sure. So you have these little pieces that have all come together to make it not a terrible team, right?
Yeah, and that's I think that's the exciting thing, because if this was, again, in a team that had less of a veteran blueprint, like they have that core 6, and like the guys they kept, and are seemingly the guys that really want to be here, and as a result, you sort of have a handful of guys to really role model. This is what you need to do, what it needs to look like. Rasmus Anderson spoken a lot about how, like, his first rookie year, he came up for that month at the end of the season and just hung out and watched Mark Giordano, and they basically said, hang out, do what he does. And then he got a game at the end of the season, and then he was a full-timer basically the next season, because he did what Giordano told him to do. A lot of the young guys who came up during the Flames last run spoke really extensively about how important Matt Station was to them. You have a veteran guy who can teach you, even if you're not going to be a star, here's how you be an NHL
pro. Right.
And having, we always, this is Flames Nation. We will always take an opportunity to dunk on Edmonton. One of the challenges I think that they had during the decade of darkness, and one of the things that made it a decade of darkness, is that every year it was the running joke. Here is this 18-year-old child who got drafted by the Edmonton Oilers. How terrible for them, because, well, and that's the thing. Like the idea, like, some players have the ability to do it, but you throw in Taylor Hall and you don't have the supporting cast to allow Taylor Hall to be the savior or even be a good NHL right away. Not Yakupov wasn't a great pick, but that was a challenging spot to put him in. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, it took him a while to really become what he is now, and I think he's one of the more underappreciated players in the league. But they've built a deep enough team around Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and all the other high-end picks they have that he's able to be an underappreciated player as opposed to being someone who's over his skis. So,
well, Cammy and I were talking the other day because I was on the other night, and we're talking about rebuilding teams and like the failed rebuilds that you see so often. And the thing that because I've started to look at them, like the Buffaloes of the world and the Anaheims of the world. One of the things you see consistently with bad rebuilds is the rush to take good high-level prospects and just get them into the NHL and see if they can like become stars immediately. And the number of kids that can do that is vanishingly small. It's the McDavids and the Kachucks. And even Kachuk took a few years to go from like a 40-point player to a 100-point player, right? But most kids need guidance. They need discipline. They need a few years in the AHL. Even really high-level guys can't just skip that step, right? So you see the Buffalo Sabres are always rushing guys into the NHL. The Anaheim right now, they're always rushing guys, and you
Ottawa
can't really do
a little bit too.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the failed rebuilds, you see all these kids, you have the Rasmus Dahlins who are, first overall, legitimate superstars. They can do it. But everyone else, like, stop doing that. That's bad for kids, right?
We have a super chat from Mitchell Green. Mitchell Green says, still waiting for Pike to mail me book. Mitchell, I'll send you an email. I'll catch up with you after the show. Thank you for reminding me, though, and thank you for the super chat for our friends at Youth Centers Calgary. I'd say, I'll say this: we talk a lot about. I was of two minds when the Flames brought the Wranglers to town, because just the idea of like, oh, so it's not in Stockton anymore. That's kind of odd. How will that work? And the way it's worked is, you have the ability to put Tyson Barrie on a conditioning loan to get his swagger back without him having to leave his house. He can stay. He doesn't have to go somewhere weird. You have the ability. Dustin Wolf can play for the minor league team, yet still have access to the pro team's development people all the time. You have, I think for a lot of teams who have their farm team in far-flung locations, it can feel out of sight, out of mind, because you don't see the developmental people as often. You don't see the GM, you can't see the coaching staff, but
it's just tougher to do, right?
It's tougher to do, and are the Flames probably getting less attendance revenue from the Wranglers than the Stockton Heat or whoever the hell it would be elsewhere? Maybe not. I mean, they might be eating into their own margins with the Hitman, but it's a developmental expense. And I think if you look at sort of how they've managed to do it, they're managing to get good AHL veterans, Clark Bishop, Justin Kirkland, a lot of others, to play on 2-way deals or 1.5-way deals, because you get to play in the NHL city and you get to not have to move if you get called up or sent down, which is a plus. But you also get to play in the NHL building. You get, the GM will see you regularly. The head coach will see you regularly, instead of having to, go planes, trains, and automobiles to check you out. You're front of mind. You're not an afterthought. You're sort of in the atmosphere. You're in the thick of things. And I think we've seen the Flames play a lot of kids the last couple of years, and I think we've seen the Wranglers maintain a really high standard of play the last few years. And so if you're Clark Bishop, if you're Rory Cairns, if you're whoever going up and down, you're going up, you're going to put an atmosphere where the team is hungry and they want to win. And if you're going down, you're going to an AHL team that, going into, I think, tonight's game against San Diego, first overall or second overall in points percentage in the entire AHL, despite losing, this, that, and the other thing to the NHL team. Like they have a standard of play, and it makes it really competitive, and I think it makes the team better. But I don't know.
Yeah, and the organization has one of its better drafts coming up here pretty soon. Like the 2024 draft is on paper one of the best I've seen this organization do. You never know how it's going to turn out, but I love the early indications of what's happening, right?
That 22 draft looks okay in retrospect. They didn't have a lot of picks, but they think especially that 23 class. I mean, Adar Suniev, he's injured right now. He's nursing a bit of an injury, but he's on the long list for the Hobie Baker.
Yeah.
So we'll see what that happens. I'm gonna point out that I'm drinking a delicious Afterburner Pale Ale from our dear friends at Origin Brewery.
I haven't tried that yet. How is it?
I really like it. If for those of you who are unfamiliar, our folks out in Strathmore at Origin Malting and Brewing Company make good beer. We're fans. We're very biased because they're friends of ours. They made a beer last year for us, the Barn Burner Blonde, which is excellent. The new beer is Afterburner Pale Ale. If you have a good liquor store near you, they might already have these fine products. If you go in there and they don't have it, just say, give them a nudge. Be like, hey, why don't you have it? Because if these fine drinking establishments and establishments that sell fine beers, they only know what you want if you tell them. So make sure you bug them. Origin Malting and Brewing Company uses barley grown on their local family farm to offer a truly sustainable grain to glass. That's a tough phrasing. Grain to glass experience. 5 generations of farming means that not only do you get intentionally chosen ingredients, but also roots that run deep in the community. They believe it's all about blending tradition and innovation for a truly unique experience that proudly celebrates Alberta farms. We grow beer. And again, I'll say this, the beer works. It's good beer.
It works.
I'll say this: we're very fortunate. Kent and I have done this for a long time. We used to run this out of our spare rooms, and this little concern of ours has grown into something rather fun and exciting. Part of the thing is we have multiple beers from folks like Origin, and we partner with a lot of groups that are A, just good folks, and B, just do some good products. It's a great beer. I don't have to have my arm twisted to plug the beer on camera. Let's put it that way. But yeah, Ken, I'm of the mind right now that, like, if you tell me what are we doing after April 17th is the last game of the season. They're going to be in Los Angeles for that rescheduled game that unfortunately got rescheduled because of the fires in LA. Things haven't gotten a lot better in the LA area. So our hearts go out to everyone in SoCal. It's a beautiful part of the world that's unfortunately part of geography and a whole bunch of other things have really, really conspired against them the last year or so. Hopefully it gets better. I very much like to be talking in April about no more fires in California, because that would be great. But also that's the Flames and Kings will be playing a game 82 for both teams. And that could be a very interesting game for both teams. LA seems home and cool. They'll probably be walking into the playoffs very comfortably, but they might not know their seeding. Depending on how the next few months go for the Flames, the Flames could have, already clinched, in which case we might see some new faces in that game for both teams just to allow those with bumps and bruises to recover. Or it could be a very important game for the Flames. And again, I'll point out the parallels of 10 years ago, Kent. 10 years ago, the 14-15 season, the last home game of the year, game 81, the Flames played Los Angeles at the Saddledome and punched their ticket for the first playoff round in however many years with a very good performance on home ice. I'd say probably one of the top 3 or 4 loudest I've ever heard the Saddledome.
Just crazy.
So hopefully, we'll say this, hopefully it's, things might be handled a little bit earlier than that. The Flames play some home games. I believe they're home for 2 or 3 games that last week before they go to LA for game 82. So maybe it'll be echoes of 14-15 and they'll already have clinched by the time they go to LA. But I don't know. It's the fact that we're talking about this, they traded everything that wasn't nailed down. They traded their Vezina finalist goalie, Selke finalist center, Mangiapane, Zadorov, Hanifin, Tanev,
That's right.
Toffoli.
And Toffoli before that, yeah.
So that's 7.
That's a lot.
7 or 8 and Shillington walked in free agency. So they lost 7 or 8, depending on how you want to define it. Significant pieces.
Top 6, top 4 players.
Significant pieces.
And starting goalie, yeah.
They played that series against Edmonton, losing overtime. So many key players from that group leave.
All gone.
I think we're down to like maybe a handful left. And if you told me at that point, here's how things are going to go, but don't worry, by 2025, they'll be on the upswing again, I'd say, I think you're being a little bit optimistic.
Yeah, a little bit. Here's a question. If Kuzmenko turns it around in the latter half here, because he had 3 points tonight, right?
2 or 3. Yeah, he was really good tonight. I think he got 3 points.
On a ridiculous line with Sherkovic and Pospisil, which you put that on paper, I don't know what that's supposed to do, but it worked. Do they trade him at the trade deadline? They should.
I would say it depends on the offer.
Yeah,
and
it's always contingent, but for me,
I would say
second rounder.
Do you think you benefit more from having, let's throw out a name, maybe you say, okay, you can trade Kuzmenko for a third rounder and then bring up Stromgren from the farm, and Stromgren gets some experience. Maybe he's ready for the NHL, maybe he's not, and you get a pick. Or maybe you get further with Kuzmenko. I would lean towards moving him myself, but it would depend on the offer. Yeah. I don't think you trade him for anything, but I think there's a certain
close
point.
To anything.
I think fourth rounder or higher, I think you really have to strongly consider it.
Yeah, and then you get Cairns back in the lineup, and I think you're fine.
Yeah,
but we'll see. I mean, good on him for having a good game, and it would be nice to see him turn it around, but trade him if you can.
Kenta, I think we need to talk about the road ahead.
Let's do it.
All right. As we get into this, the road ahead is brought to you. It's powered by Platinum Mitsubishi, home of the 7-seat Outlander PHEV, Canada's best-selling plug-in hybrid SUV, combining more than a century of automotive innovation and an industry-leading 10-year, 160,000-kilometer powertrain warranty. All Mitsubishi vehicles offer the comfort and craftsmanship you and your family deserve. Check out Platinum Mitsubishi's online storefront at mitsu.ca or visit in person at 2720 Barlow Trail Northeast to experience their state-of-the-art showroom, award-winning sales team, and decorated vehicle lineup, including the Outlander, RVR, and Eclipse Cross. Locally owned by a family of Flames fans, Platinum Mitsubishi has been proudly serving Calgarians for more than 2 decades and is proud to support Afterburner. And I've been told one of their salesmen is a pretty decent guy. He's fine. He's nice enough guy.
He's all right.
And he's on his way to Winnipeg, coincidentally enough, to watch the very next game the Calgary Flames will be playing. What a coincidence. I couldn't have matched that up myself. The Calgary Flames are back in action on Sunday night. It is an earlier start because this is how the life of the Flames work. It is a 6 p.m. Mountain start, 4 p.m. Mountain start, 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Mountain, Sportsnet West, Calgary Flames against the Winnipeg Jets. They played a hell of a hockey game about 8 days ago. Calgary Flames came away with a hard-fought win. Dustin Wolf stood on his absolute head. I believe I called it him painting his masterpiece. I don't know who starts in net against the Jets because I don't know. I assume it's Vladar because I think the challenge is you got it's a 3-4. This is game 3 of the 3-4, but it's also a set where they go home and they play the Washington Capitals next up. Tuesday, 7:00 start. Alex Ovechkin continues his chase for Wayne Gretzky's record against the Calgary Flames. Tuesday, 7 p.m. start at the Saddledome. If you're the Flames, you're probably going, all right, back-to-back. Jets on Sunday, probably a scheduled loss. Give that to Vladar. Keep Wolf hungry and fresh for Tuesday against Washington. Okay, That sounds good. Logan Thompson, Calgary kid, we playing at home. We already got told by the Capitals that's the plan. So Logan Thompson, Team Canada, not a guy who wasn't named to it, versus Team USA, a guy that also wasn't named to it. But I mean, two up and coming goalies, an American team with the Canadian goalie, a Canadian team with American goalie. It sounds like it's gonna be fun, and Ovi chasing a record is gonna be fun. Typically the Flames and Capitals are not a game that have big rivalry vibes, but it's Ovi. So I think if I'm the Flames, I kind of do that. After that, the Flames have. I'll just run through the games before now the break, because why not? Kent's a captive audience. Thursday, January the 30th, 7 p.m. Flames host the Anaheim Ducks. Saturday, February 1. It's February already almost. 8 p.m. start. The Detroit Red Wings are in town. Then back-to-back, and this is a weird one. It's a back-to-back with travel. They start at home. They play Detroit. They get on a plane. They fly to Seattle. On Sunday, the 2nd, 7 p.m. start, they play the Seattle Kraken, a divisional game. Seattle, things haven't gone well for them this year, Kent. They're down in the standings. They are the group of teams that could catch the Flames for the last playoff spot is basically what? Vancouver, maybe St. Louis. St. Louis is also 5 back, but the Flames have 3 games in hand on St. Louis. So
yeah,
like if you do anything with your games in hand, 5 to 8 points is probably too much for St. Louis to make up. So it might just be Vancouver. So if you're Seattle, you might already be in try stuff mode. You already might be in spoiler mode. After that, 3 more to go before the break. February 4th at home against the Toronto Maple Leafs. February 6th, a pretty fun sounding game, Calgary and the Colorado Avalanche. And then once more, February the 8th, also a Saturday, the Flames will conclude their schedule before the Four Nations face-off at home against the Seattle Kraken again. It's a nice mix of the schedule. You got some teams that are kind of high up. You have some teams that are Seattle in Anaheim. Like it's kind of a nice
low
mix.
Down. Yeah.
You know, you got some games that you're going, I don't know, Vladar can have those. You know, I think it's kind of funny. Do you kind of switch things up now? It used to be you gave Dustin Wolf the easy games. You gave Vladar the games that look tougher on paper, but now you're like, oh,
no,
well,
let's
just
play Wolf
flip
as much as possible at this point.
You got 2 weeks off, so I think if Dustin Wolf is feeling fresh, and
he's 23 years old, I think. Like
he'll be fine. Dustin Wolf played in the Western League and the American League, and granted, travel in both those leagues is different. You usually don't travel on back-to-backs, but Dustin Wolf has played back-to-back a few times. He's played a Friday, Sunday. He's played a lot of hockey in short periods. He's got those young tendons, those young bones. He'll be fine. They can stick him in an ice bath after the game, cover up him in bubble wrap. So that's the road ahead. Thanks again to our friends at Platinum Mitsubishi, a proud sponsor of both FlamesNation.ca and Afterburner, and we appreciate their patronage and their support. Kent, we'll get to some questions, but first let's do our Bet365.
It's a good segue because
we were talking about tomorrow, the game on Sunday, Calgary Flames facing the Winnipeg Jets for the second time in 8 days, playoff vibes, because the Jets really like to not be bad again. They weren't terrible against the Flames last Saturday. They weren't great. And they were playing a Flames team at the end of a road trip.
The Dustin Wolf stood on his head though, right? So
yeah, I mean, what do you make of the matchup on Sunday?
I think Vladar is going to play. I think the Flames are going to be tired. As you said, it should be a scheduled loss for Calgary because Winnipeg, they do have the best goalie in the league for my money right now, and that's a tough matchup for Calgary tomorrow.
Yeah, it's they're not going to be road favorites. Let's put it that way.
No.
Again, Bet365, the world's largest sports betting platform. Download the app, and when you do, use the code NATION and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And folks, we got some questions. If you got questions for Kent or I, we'll do a few questions before we bid you adieu, because we got to do this all again on Sunday. after which I hope the game against the Jets is half as exciting as this one and features fewer injuries. That's my hope. Entertaining games, no injuries. That's all I hope for. And so far this season, most of the time, those boxes have been ticked off.
Let's see how it goes.
What do we got for questions? How's Zeri?
Same.
He was our pal Eric Francis was at the poker tournament the Flames held. I believe it's a Tuesday. They set a record for money raised. So hat tip to the folks who were at the tournament, supported the foundation, and the foundation. I think it was $610,000 they raised for all the things they do in the community. Zari, he was walking out without a knee brace. The team has not said anything official on his status outside of he's still out indefinitely. Him being out and about in the community without an obvious brace, without a scooter, without someone piggybacking him around has to be a good sign. He did not need surgery, so the assumption is he's rehabbing something. My guess is we won't see him before the break. If I were managing his health, I would say, Connor, you're recovering great. We'll see you after the break. Go spend a week in Mexico or something. I don't know. Rehab in Mexico. I don't know what people do on their breaks. I don't, but the good news is he's expected back before the end of the season. And my guess is we'll get a more definitive timeline from the club closer to his return.
Yeah, we're talking weeks, not months, which is good, but we're not tomorrow or
he's not playing against the Jets.
Right. Yeah. It'll be a while, but not too long.
And isn't that a fun? When he went down, I was like, "Oh God, we're never going to see him again." So I'm just, for his sake, he's having such a good season that I was like, "Oh, it's not bad news. It's only okay news. I'll take okay news over bad news anytime."
I think this next question is for you, though. By the way, arena update.
I want Kent's take on this.
Nah.
Have you seen the whole Kent? So if you have not been to Stampede Park and the Scotiabank Saddleland vicinity, between 12th and 10th, 12th and 14th, just south of 12th Ave, there's a giant pit. It was 2 parking lots, and then they took out all the parking and they moved the tree.
It's a hole.
And then it's a hole. It's not just a hole. They have, as of Thursday, they have some pile drivers there driving structural piles down into the bedrock to sort of do structural things. My wife's a structural engineer. I don't understand half the things she explains to me, so I just try to say what she says in a less eloquent tone. But yeah, there's a hole. They are about halfway through the excavation, I believe. I think their plan is to keep excavating as much as they can while the weather cooperates, and then in the spring, the most precise phrasing they gave us was in the spring, which probably could be anywhere between March and May. They will start putting in the foundation, and then after the foundation's in, they'll have structural steel. I would presume that the more the weather cooperates now, the more excavation they can get done, the earlier we will see the foundation go in. But it's kind of cool if you have a chance to go down to a game, Wranglers, Hitmen, Roughnecks, Flames. Give yourself extra time and just wander around the area around Stampede Park if you haven't been there in a while. Kent. It's kind of nice now. The BMO Center's done. It's kind of nice. 17th Avenue, you can drive straight in. There's the giant awkward wall fencing it off from the rest of the society is gone. You can drive straight in. The LRT station is at ground level now, so you don't have to go through those awkward plus 15 things. So it's kind of neat, and you can kind of squint and go, ooh, this could actually be kind of a fun environment in a little while once everything's built. Right now, it's still kind of construction-y. And
so for now, it's just like a place you dispose of a body and not much else.
Ken, that's between you and the construction people. I don't need to know what you do with your spare time. But yeah, it's construction is continuing.
So, yeah.
All the permitting is done. Everything's been approved. Contract has been finalized. Money has changed hands. Basically, I know folks are. I've had friends and colleagues from other markets be like, "This isn't happening. There's no way this is happening." And I keep going, this
It's
is
happening.
happening. Yeah, there's a
digging
hole. They
holes.
have to fill the hole with something now. And it's a big enough
That's
hole.
right.
The only thing they can really fill it with is an arena. So we'll see. I think it'll in this probably
We're years out. We're years out.
I would say by the time hypothetically Flames, Wranglers, Hitmen playoffs, perhaps all at once, are happening in March, April. There could be stuff starting to go up right. Who's to say? But I think, it's kind of a cool environment now. We'll continue to post photos and updates on social media and on the website because I don't know, it's kind of fun. It's just the fact that, we've been hearing about this for so long, and I think people have been like, just do it already. I'm tired of hearing about it. And as someone who covered it, Kent, I remember Kent and I had vivid discussions about Calgary Next, and some of my favorite writing that Kent has ever done has been the Calgary Next coverage that he did. And it's been a journey, Kent.
A long time.
We're going from Calgary Next to, hey, look, an actual building that is actually happening. So
terrible renderings. We'll see.
I like the renderings now. No,
I'm talking about Calgary Next renderings.
Just the most expensive land to build on in the history. If you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, folks, Google soil remediation and then just let your Sunday get away from you, because there's nothing more expensive and frustrating than figuring out any kind of soil remediation, let alone an area right next to a river, the main water source of the city. And then, Calgary Next is a cool idea as an idea. As a plan,
not at all. Not at all.
But
all right.
What do we got? Any more questions from our lovely readers, listeners, participants? Yuri, how much do you expect teams to be cautious with injuries and holding players out of the Four Nations? That's a great question. Coincidentally enough, we wrote on the website last couple days, the Vegas Golden Knights have William Karlsson, who is on Team Sweden, out week to week. I don't know what week to week means. I don't think they know for sure. But William Karlsson is a forward on Sweden. It could result in Michael Backlund going. We're not sure yet. But I think we're probably entering the period where 2 weeks out of the tournament, a little bit more than 2 weeks. I think from here on out, players that have anything that seems like it could be major, even something moderate, like if you're someone they have questions about, maybe they let you go, maybe they don't. I think the big challenge is this. Generally speaking, players are allowed a good amount of say in their own health. And so we've seen a lot of players play through stuff that afterwards you hear about and you go, why would you play through that? That sounds horrible. And a lot of the reason is they're just the most competitive, wacky people in the world. And that's why they're so good at what they do. They're wired in a way that they don't want to pull themselves out because they don't want to hurt the team, and they want to help any way they can. And to a certain logic, playing through weird injuries sounds like a way of helping the team. I don't think it's a great idea. I'm not here to tell anyone what to do with their body. I just think I wouldn't do it, but I'm also not very competitive, not very athletic, and kind of a wuss. But I can kind of understand why they do it. So, if you typically, we've seen players hold themselves out of the All-Star game, and to a point where the league put in a rule basically where if you miss the All-Star game because of an injury, you had to miss, I think, the game either immediately before or immediately after the All-Star break, because they didn't want guys just to be like, no, going on vacation. Screw you guys. I'm going. So they put in that rule. And that one was just the All-Star game. This one is ostensibly a pre-Olympic event that will help the national teams determine who goes to the 2026 Olympics. And there are some players, Sidney Crosby, McDavid, whoever, who are going to be on the Olympic team whether they play in this tournament or not. If McDavid happened to have his leg fall off tomorrow and it's like, sorry guys, can't play, it's not that they're going to say to McDavid, sorry, you didn't go to Four Nations, you can't go to the Olympics, buddy. But there are a lot of players who are sort of on that bubble. And if you're a bubble guy and you have something you're playing through and your team goes, maybe you shouldn't go to this thing. You might go, yeah, it's not that bad. I want to go to the Olympics. So I don't know. Everyone is motivated by different things, and I'm not here to tell people what to do, what not to do. Again, I'm kind of a wuss and I'm not very athletic, but I don't know. It seems I would want to play in the Olympics. If you told me if you play through some horrible pain for 10 days, you have to go to the Olympics, I might consider it. It might not be the best idea. I might hate myself for making that decision 5 to 10 years down the road, but it's also the Olympics.
I mean, this isn't the Olympics, and I was surprised that the NHL said yes to it. So if I was any of those teams, I would not send any of my players to it. I'd be extremely selfish, but it looks like they've said yes. So you're right. I don't think minor injuries are going to keep anybody out, but there will be like moderate to anything beyond moderate. It's like, yeah, you're not going.
All right, we're running a little bit long. Last call. Do you have any more questions from our lovely comment section? Or else we can release you to enjoy your Saturday night and whatever is left of the late games.
That's right.
All right, seeing none, we will draw the curtain on this show. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been Afterburner. He's Kent. You can find him all over the damn place, but primarily these days at Post Media, doing columns on the Calgary Flames and Calgary Flames related topics. You can find me at FlamesNation.ca, far too much. And you can also find me on Afterburner on Sunday night when Cammy will join me and we'll talk about the Flames and the Winnipeg Jets. Again, it's a 4:00 start. So if you tune in at 5 or 6, you'll be tuning in too late. But 4:00 start on Sportsnet West and Flames and Jets. And maybe we'll see Gould in the crowd somewhere making a nuisance of himself. I hope not, because I want him to have a fun time. And if he's on camera, it might not be for good reasons. Have a great night, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on Sunday.